Welcome.
Sin MG was formed by Scott Sinclair and Keith Parsons on the Southside of Chicago in 1996. From its inception, Sin MG has delivered a three-dimensional listening experience to its fans. Using the power of music, imagery, and emotion, Sin MG has stayed true to who they are and their fans for over 15 years. This is their story of how they formed, why they became musicians, and what's next for this exceptional band. So sit back, enjoy, and embrace the darkness within.
Won't you guess my name? What's puzzling you's the nature of my game. I stuck around St. Petersburg when I saw it was time for change.
Keith and I met mid to early 90s. I was playing with two brothers, and we had a little project going on, and it was a cover project, and we were looking for a bass player.
I was a bass player, and I wasn't playing in any bands, so I auditioned for this group.
And we brought him in, and he tried out for our little cover band, and I was like, this is the guy. We went on like this for a little bit, and it became clear to me that it wasn't going to work. I wanted to express myself a little bit differently, and I wanted to write my own songs.
My passion is for writing, so I love creating. I love to make something out of nothing.
And this cover band was having a hard time playing in time, and it was just kind of a train wreck. So I left the band.
And then Scott and I got to start talking, and we realized that both of us were kind of headed in the same direction musically. We had an image of a group that we wanted to create.
So we moved from that cover band over to my house in Evergreen Park.
The two of us basically started working together. I used to go to his house, and he had a studio set up in his basement, so we would start writing and recording, and the rest is history. That's how Sin MG was formed.
It's all over.
One of the first songs that we wrote together.
I think it goes like this. Sorry.
I would have to say that the first song that we wrote together from beginning to end was Vampire. Yeah. Lyrically, that song was inspired by Blade, the original Blade movie, which was popular at the time. But I remember sitting down in my basement back in Evergreen Park, and we put that song pretty much together from scratch.
I think it's really interesting that Vampire was our first song, because it kind of laid the groundwork for what Sin MG is, which is a band that kind of goes into darker topics. Whether people like it or not is special to us, because it kind of spawned what is now Sin MG.
We used, back in the day, an 8-track Tascam analog recording device,
and a Korg X3 keyboard to do all of our sequencing. So writing a song from beginning to end was a hell of a lot different than it is now. I mean, now I'm using Pro Tools in this studio, and Keith is using Cubase and Reason in his studio, and it's way more efficient to write songs these days. When we first put the project together back then, the name of the band was Sin the Moon God. We put together a completely original show.
We were pretty much off and rolling within a year. So we found a guitar player, Alan, and a high school friend of mine, John, to play drums, and we hit the circuit.
We had somewhere around 22 originals that we wrote. I think an average set included about 15 of those songs.
And we just started playing all the clubs in Chicago, so North Side, South Side, just wherever we could.
Places we left behind, fuel my every moment.
We played Thurston's, the Beat Kitchen. God, I can't remember all the places that we played.
I can't remember, man, like Thurston's, and we played Beat Kitchen.
My game has just begun, yeah. Holding on to you.
And when we played, we put on a good show for a 4-piece act. Where and when did we break up? I don't know if we ever officially broke up.
I won't say we actually broke up, I'll say it's a hiatus.
We came to a certain point, and I think I speak for Keith on this. We weren't really happy with how things were turning out as far as our live shows. I mean, there were some things lacking, and I had just met this girl that I ended up marrying, so my priorities were kind of shifting. Keith had an opportunity to go live in Japan and study and teach, and all this stuff kind of happened at the same time. We were playing these shows, and we weren't getting a ton of people to come out. The stuff we were recording in his home studio on his Tascam was okay at best. We recorded a 4-song demo at a studio, but it was really expensive. And it was just for a small time band, young, early 20s, it was really hard to make anything happen. So we kind of got burnt out. So I think it was time for us to take a little bit of a break, and we did.
In about 2000, I had an opportunity to work and relocate to Japan, which is actually where my mother was from. So I have family members there, so it was just an opportunity that came up and I thought I had to seize it. So my mother passed away when I was a child, so I lost contact with my family in Japan. And I thought this is a great way for me to go to Japan, work, experience the culture that, I lost contact with, and actually reconnected with my family there. And the crazy thing is, I moved there, left all my music back in Chicago, all my instruments and stuff, and said, I'm gonna go over there, go work, and, I'll focus on music later. And within a year, I was, had a guitar and a band, and I was playing out there. Music was different. I was doing more of an acid jazz kind of project at the time, but, music found me.
We never said it was going to be the end. In fact, I'm pretty sure Keith and I left the door open. We didn't burn any bridges with each other. We never had any fights. We've always gotten along really well. It just got to this point where both of us, our lives were kind of turning us in different directions, and we kind of needed a little bit of a break. So we took it.
I'll say it was a 5-year hiatus and not necessarily a breakup. So.
After many years and different paths and all kinds of experience, one day I broke out the old 8-track, and the discs that were on the Korg X3 keyboard literally had the 3x5 floppies, and I started playing some of the old stuff. And we had a lot of good stuff. I mean, Vampire was a hit with our fans from the word go. Everybody loved that song. Everybody at our shows couldn't wait for us to play it. So that was a given. I mean, it was a great song that I hated to see just drift away. But it was the song "It's All Over" that made me really want to get it back together. "It's All Over" and "Remember" were the last two songs that we wrote.
It's all over.
They were two songs that really showed how much we matured from the time that we started to the time that we broke up. And I thought those two songs were our two best songs that we wrote at the time. And especially "It's All Over." I think Keith liked "Remember" better than "It's All Over," but for some reason "It's All Over" for me was really a good direction for us. It had a good hook and a chorus, and the way it was originally written was really raw, and I really dug the direction it was going. So I was listening to that song, and there was just something inside of me that says, it can't be over. It's not all over, even though it's all over. And so I started looking for Keith. Where is he at? Is he still in Japan? Did he come back to the States? Is he living in Illinois? What's going on? So I started looking on LinkedIn and Facebook and MySpace, any social media at the time that was pretty popular.
So I came back from Japan in 2005, and then I think a year or two after that, Scott and I reconnected via Facebook. So Scott actually found me on Facebook. So for all those people that not Facebook, it's actually good for some things.
And I found Keith. I found him on Facebook, and I sent him a message and said, "Hey dude, the hell's going on? You know, where you been? Where you at? I want to get the band back together, man.
Blast off the air, throws me in my seat. Oh, how it's fulfilling the streets. Drinking to entertaining my veins. Feeling the wind as I leave you in my wake. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
He replied and said, cool, let's do it. Now, the funny thing is he's living in San Francisco. We had to adapt our writing methods and style and everything to collaborate over a long distance. So right now, as we speak, as this video is being made, I am in Chicago, he is in San Francisco. But it works. It just works. So when we got it back together and started writing again, originally the plan was, let's take all the old 22 songs that we wrote, let's readapt them for where we are today, and you know, hey, we'll have some fun with it. Maybe we'll release a couple tracks on iTunes, whatever, and that was it. But we started going, and
We thought, okay, let's go back and let's redo a couple of the songs, you know, with the technology that we actually have now, because technology changed quite a bit from 2000 to 2006 or 7. So,
we redid Remember, we redid It's All Over, and we redid Vampire, and that's it. The other 19 songs are still there. And from that point, we started writing new originals.
you know, we basically took a song, redid it, and the weird thing is we were gonna go through and redo just, you know, some of the old stuff, but for every song that we redid, we created probably 4 or 5 new ones, so the synergy just kind of sparked back to life, and, you know, we're still doing what we started.
We never found the time to go back to any of those old songs because the new ones we were writing were a lot better in a lot of ways.
We picked up right where we left off, and I think we're actually better now than we were before I left.
Keith and I, from the get-go, whether we had crappy equipment or good equipment, always had really amazing chemistry together. We come from completely different genres of musical taste, and for some reason it just works together. I love what he does. I'm pretty sure he likes what I do, you know, but it just works. Our love for music, our love for creating music really helps it work.
So, as we started, you know, writing newer stuff and coming out with newer songs, I think both Scott and I felt like, you know, this is new, this is fresh, this is, you know, it's the same thing that we were doing before, but it's a little bit, you know, more modern. So, I think we both wanted to shorten the
When we
name.
got back together, Sin, the moon god, was kind of who we said we were. We fooled around with
Sin, Moon, God came into play. But I think later we just decided, you know, Sin MG.
so that's who we are now, Sin MG.
Took you in my home, gave you all I own. The tables have turned.
Embrace the darkness within is just another way of saying don't deny yourself.
The darkness that is one half of, you know, who we all are. You know, there's light and there's darkness, and in our life there's happiness and there's sadness.
Yin and yang. There's light, there's dark. In a traditional society, most of us suppress that dark side. And what Keith and I and what Sin MG is all about is saying, you know what? Don't oppress the dark side. Embrace it.
Live your life free of fear and
So our music is really artistic.
But as an artist, I think for me, you can expand a little bit more when you deal in those darker topics.
Powerful guitars and vocals, grooving bass, thumping drums.
For me as a musician, it's fantastic because there's a lot more that I can explore musically when you're dealing with those kind of emotions or those kind of feelings and those kind of images, where you can go into minor keys, minor modes, very dissonant sounds. You can explore sounds that you don't traditionally find in popular music. So.
And for me, when we say embrace the darkness within, it means cherish all aspects of who we are as living, breathing beings.
We talk about it as it is in all of our lives.
Brainwashing coercion, tales written 5,000 years before.
So Deception is our debut album. It is in stores now, and we're pretty proud of it. We wrote, mixed, produced, and mastered the album completely in our own studios. We've decided that we're going to do 7 albums, and we're going to create our own 7 deadly sins. Each one of the albums will be named after Sin MG's version of the 7 deadly sins. So the first one is Deception. So Deception is our debut album, and it's got 12 tracks on it, 11 songs, and then 1 hidden track. That's pretty interesting. But again, remember, when you're listening to Deception, when you're listening to Sin MG, we are artists. We are musicians, but we are artists. And we use music as our medium on the canvas. So everything that we do is pretty deep and intense.
I think we paint a picture, and for people that want to enter into the world of Sin MG, I think it's darker. It questions things like religion. I think we deal with topics such as war and death and vengeance and things like that. So if a listener is willing to go into those topics, we'll take it there, and hopefully you'll find what you're looking for. Our first album is Deception, and when you want to know the other 6 deadly sins, or the 6 Sin MG sins, I should say, check out our next 6 albums. Peace.
When we write, very often, Keith comes up with some musical ideas. He'll put together a guitar progression, some drums, some bass, and say, hey, what do you think of this?
So generally when I write, I sit down and I come up with an idea or a riff or something, and then I try to identify it. So is it is this a verse, is it a chorus, is it a bridge, an interlude, what is it? And then once I come up with that idea, then I find out where the music wants to go.
Then I grab it and I lay down some vocal tracks and send it back to him and say, hey, what about this direction? How does this go?
And then once that's there, I clean up the guitars, the bass track, the drum track, produce it a little bit, add some ear candy keyboard samples and such, and then basically build it around the vocals, send it back to Scott, and he cleans up the vocals, overlays vocals and such, and then he mixes and masters it.
For instance, we're working on one right now called Hell Below. I'll listen to the music with the title and see if it inspires lyrics.
I take it to, let it go where it wants to go. So basically let the song write itself. So I feel where the music's moving, and that's where I take it.
But sometimes the music says something completely different to me, and I go off on a different tangent. and then present it to him, and he'll be like, whoa, you know, that's awesome, it's different, let's do it.
Once I hear him, then that sparks a ton of other ideas.
So as an artist, I want to put out a product that expresses myself, that takes, you know, that stress and anxiety of living on this earth every day, and finds an escape for it.
As an artist, I guess I'm just trying to create the best music that I can, the best songs that I can, the best arrangements that I can, and I'm putting them out there and hope that people like them. I know, you know, the genre we're in is not for everyone. I know some of the topics that we talk about are not for everyone, but I hope there's a handful of people out there that appreciate it, and as long as there are, then I'll keep doing what I'm doing, and I think Scott feels the same way, you know. We both get enjoyment out of, you know, SynMG and creating and writing and working together, so, you know, I think this is something that we're going to be doing for a long time, and I hope we pick up some fans along the way. That's all I can hope for.
Music and SynMG for me is as much therapy as it is a way to express myself and to share that with our fans. Our fans have been super supportive and awesome, and I just want to give them something that if they're going to pay any amount of money for our music, or if they're going to spend the time listening to our stuff, that they get something. You know, they get a message. They get some meaning behind the music and the lyrics and the vocals. That for me is pretty important. And hey man, if that's not for you, then go listen to something else.
So I think if people are interested in going into, you know, those kind of topics and issues, and listen to a band, I mean, Scott's a wonderful singer. He's not, you know, a death metal screamer or anything like that. Then it's for those people.
For SynMG, we're there for the listener that wants to get something out of that music, that wants to listen to it and you know, feel the same way we felt when we wrote it, and make their day a little bit better. That's what we're all about. We offer our listeners an escape. I think every single one of our songs is packed with imagery. Almost reads like a short story or short movie. We also put together a lyric book for Deception on our website that has some images in it, and as we grow, we'll definitely expand on that. I think image and music and lyric are a great combination, and I definitely see us doing more of that. So we're looking for that 3 or 4 dimensional experience for our listeners. You know, music, imagery, emotion. So what's next for SynMG? Well, we have our second album, Fear, coming out later this year, 2012.
We've got the core of the songs written, you know, we're just finishing them off, tweaking them, producing them, and such.
I'm pretty proud of Deception. I think Deception was a great first album for us. I think we had some really good tracks on there. I think Fear is going to blow it away. We have some killer tunes that we've put together for Fear.
I think the music keeps coming, so we're going to keep writing. So we have at least 7 albums that we've signed up for.
We're making some good progress online as far as our fan base goes. And what's next for SynMG? We're going to finish Fear, and I think I speak for Keith. We've got the goal of really putting together some kind of a tour.
We've also got musicians lined up that are ready to play with us, so hopefully some shows during the near future. A tour would be, wonderful.
And getting out there and seeing our fans. We've got over 11,000 fans on Django Internet Radio, but we're pretty proud of what we've been able to do by just writing music.
So I think that's where we're headed. We're just going to keep writing, keep producing, keep, the albums coming out, and hopefully have a tour to back them up. Okay.
To the place I was before, back to the images I had before this war. Useful politics, it's time to get his fix, to escape the truth. A hero from Afghanistan and a proud American, wasted away in a bar. He gave the prime of his life, defending our rights.
Pop me in to go, yeah!